On a First Friday Miracle edition of the program, I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. How you living, buddy?
Good, man. The NFL machine just keeps on turning and burning and churning. It is unbelievable.
Quiet. It's quiet.
No,
Quiet.
and thankfully it is not quiet. I'm happy it's not quiet.
Surely, and don't call me Shirley, if there is a deal of a marquee player of extreme skill set that is really without duplication in the National Football League, surely that deal would take place for a player heading to the National Football Conference as opposed to the American Football Conference. Obviously, that would be the case.
Yep.
There is no way that a deal would be done that would further buoy the American Football Conference. So if in your world where the NFL keeps churning, clearly that's not the case, sir. Clearly not.
No. This is just, and this came out of nowhere. I mean, it was so quickly.
What are we supposed to do here?
It's great. Kidding? Are you kidding me? I love this.
No, it's not great because we had 12 teams as playoff teams. Now this team views themselves as a playoff team.
Well, now we've got 13.
Yeah, you got 13 in one conference. 7 make it.
That's right.
7 make it. Much like a lot of these deals
16,
that have happened,
by
though.
the way, folks, we're talking about 13
just
out of 16. You
went to private school. Can you just give me a feel for what 13 out of 16? What is my percentage on that?
Well, 12 out of 16 would have been 75%, and then you can add another 6.1% to that. So I think we're right around 81.1%.
We're in the 80s.
Is where I would.
Which was
what I'm saying.
Kind of that was usually my optimistic target score for grades was in the 81. That's really was my sweet spot. Was right in there. I just wanted to be.
Mine was 100.
Just at the bottom end.
Mine was a nerd.
Just at the bottom end.
100
of above average.
Yeah,
that's all I was hoping for.
Mine
was
was 100. Nate, this 96 is unacceptable.
You're under the yoke of Pedro.
Oh yeah.
What choice did you have?
100.
And the official Nana. I mean, they're holding you to a standard, sir. All right, so yeah, this deal happened. I mean, it's unreal. So this is the deal. The Chiefs are sending Tyreek Hill, one of the highest paid receivers, and going to be, the extension is going to be a significant one. He is going to the Miami Dolphins for 5 picks, including a first rounder this year, number 29 overall, a second rounder this year, number 50 overall, a fourth, as well as a fourth and a sixth in 2023. I am stunned that this happened. Stunned. Is this on par with the Russell Wilson stun for you? To me, it's almost more so.
Well, the Russell Wilson thing had been, you'd hear rumors for years, right?
Yes.
Russ wants out.
And the location.
Yeah. Sure.
And Denver.
Yeah.
So
this
was all
like 2 hours ago. There was just kind of a random tweet from Rappaport, I want to say, that said something to the effect of the Chiefs offered him a contract extension. He didn't want it. He's been given permission to seek a trade. And then within a few minutes after that, he's going to be going to Miami or the Jets. And then a few minutes after that, he's going to Miami, and he will now be with the Miami Dolphins. I think this has a huge knock on the Chiefs. It is, you wonder, can either Tua or Theodore get the ball down the field enough to Tyreek Hill? It's not exactly strong-armed quarterbacks that they have down there in Miami, but all of a sudden Miami becomes a player. And, yes, as we were joking, here are the 3 teams that probably are looking at themselves and saying, yeah, we're not playoffs or bust this year: Houston, Jacksonville, and the Jets. That's it. That's the whole AFC. Everybody else in. Everybody else feels like they're going to the playoffs this year. That's the list. A stunning trade. And you've talked about how they have had, the best or one of the best quarterbacks in the league for this time. They've had the best vertical threat in the league in Tyreek Hill, who completely changes how defenses defend them, and then the best intermediate threat in the league in Travis Kelce. And I think losing Tyreek Hill is going to be significant for that.
All right, I have a couple of things to ponder here. Are you more interested in the Miami stuff first or the Kansas City stuff first?
You hit me with whatever you want, dude. I'm
malleable.
malleable. I'm flexible.
Good word out of you. You didn't have to do the qualifier. I knew what malleable was.
Yeah.
You didn't have to add that. I know.
That wasn't necessarily for you.
You were still paying attention.
Yeah.
Malleable is a fantastic word. All right. Wasn't necessarily. Let me ask you this. Let's do Kansas City first.
Okay.
Are you sure Kansas City is right now one of the 8 that's Super Bowl or bust? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know if they are Super Bowl or bust. I think that, you lose Tyreek Hill. I think that's going to have a big impact on this offense. You still have Pat Mahomes, though. And until somebody shows
but no
me
Badger.
No Honey Badger. But I still think Patrick Mahomes make them still feel like they're Super Bowl contenders, and rightfully so. I'll go back to and just devil's advocate for 1 second. John McClain, who was on our show yesterday, said, when you have somebody like John Watson, you don't need to go get all these great receivers. He'll make them great. And so what does that mean? We'll find out, I guess, for Pat Mahomes.
I don't hate it long term for Kansas City because Tyreek Hill's 28, Kelsey's 32. So, and they were having a hell of a time trying to sort out somebody to play opposite them. They tried about everybody, and they were a hard time doing it. But for the immediate for next season, I don't know that I would consider them. I mean, Mahomes is so spectacular. But Hill gives them something. There's nobody else in the league like him.
Correct.
Like his gear is different than everybody else's, and he allows for their offense to do things that others are not capable of being able to do. And now, where's their other first-round pick? So they're picking at 29, and they're picking at I wonder where their other one is. It's got to be in the mid-20s.
Wasn't it 22? Am I wrong about that?
I think the Miami pick is 29.
Miami is 29?
29 was San Francisco's.
Yeah, so San Francisco's old pick that goes to Miami.
Gotcha. Okay.
And now goes to Kansas City. So then Kansas City has their original pick as well,
which would have
unless they've traded that, and unbeknownst to me.
Which would have been 28, right? So do they have back-to-back picks?
All right, so they're picking 28, 29. So if you're Miami, or if you're Kansas City now, this is a really good receiver draft. They all are. I think of Jamison Williams.
Well, I wrote down Jamison Williams, wrote down Olave, I wrote down Dotson from Penn State.
Yeah. Do you take? I mean, you could actually draft maybe two. If somebody fell, you could maybe draft two of those guys, and now all of a sudden you fix your receiver thing. You got two guys for the price of one. But I also don't want to undersell the uniqueness of Tyreek Hill because I don't think that that's a plug and play situation, my friend.
Sure.
Okay. The other thing that I was thinking about from the Kansas City side of things. So they had that group together now with the best intermediate route runner in the league in Travis Kelce.
Yep.
The best deep threat ever in Tyreek Hill, and this unicorn at quarterback. They won one Super Bowl. Is that underachieving?
I mean, they've represented the AFC in 4 straight championship games. Is it underachieving? No, I think that they're very good. I think it's tough to win Super Bowls. It's hard.
It is. But we would say that Rodgers only winning one in Green Bay is underachieving.
Well, that's a lot longer than 4 years.
True, but he never had this collection of talent. I mean, you could argue Kelsey's a top 5 tight end ever, and you could argue Tyreek Hill's the best deep threat ever. So it's just, I think if you would have gone back to when they won the first one, you would have said they'll win a couple with this group.
Yes.
And now the group is broken up, and they got one. They got one, and it's awesome. They got one. And so it's not, I mean, you win the one. It's kind of like the Braves, with all the times that they were in it and they had that great pitching staff. They won the one, so you don't look back at it and go, oh, that was a failure. And I'm not suggesting that this is.
The A's went
but
to
if I would have told you,
one. Yeah.
What's that?
The A's of my youth went to 3 straight and won one. They were in 88, 89, 90, and they only won one.
Right. And so you don't get that failure part of it because you won the one, and that's all we're all chasing is the one. And so you're so thrilled about that. But I think if you would have gone back and asked me after they won the one with that group and said, here, X amount of years later, Tyreek Hill will be gone. I would assume Kelsey would be gone first. Tyreek will be gone first, and they just win the one. I would have thought, boy, that's shocking to me because they were all so young and in their prime.
Win one,
and now that's done.
And go to 2. Yeah, I think it is surprising. I think it's very surprising that that's where it ended up, and that it is broken up. And now we're gonna get
crazy.
We're gonna see kind of what they're able to do, who they go after, what they're able to get. Now, I think we talked about some of those young receivers, and they might be just fine throwing, a Dotson and then Jamison Williams or one of the two and figure it out what they end up doing there. That's going to be, I think, very, very interesting. But it is a shocker. It just speaks to, again, how difficult it is to win Super Bowls and how difficult it is once you do win a Super Bowl how difficult it is to keep that team together when you need to pay so many people big money when you've got a lot of superstars. And I think that is a very, very challenging thing for NFL teams to get around. And we've heard so much about how the salary cap's not real and you can kick it down the line. Well, clearly they didn't have enough money to pay.
To a point.
They didn't have enough money to pay Tyreek Hill, just like the Packers did not have enough money to pay Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Now, you could say, well, wait a second. Maybe Aaron Rodgers should have done what Tom Brady did and get paid around $20 million a year, and he could have had Devontae Adams. But obviously, that wasn't his priority or his prerogative. And so there is a difference between the guys that try to have reached that elite level and still try to spread it around. Now, I don't think Mahomes' deal, when it's all said and done, will end up looking crazy, but there's a lot tied into that and the guys that they've paid in Kansas City, and they had to make you have to make a tough decision or tough decisions when you become a team of that kind of consequence.
Now let's do the Miami side of it. They are offensively loaded. And you add Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. You know, that type of speed would make Al Davis blush. I mean, that's all he ever wanted was that. I don't know that we've ever seen that much speed in one receiving core. I'll be careful with my hyperbole because someone will point somebody out that maybe this happened at some point. But those two are blazers. Blazers. And you have them both. But you have a quarterback who cannot drive the ball down the field. So, two-parter. One is, does this even fit what Tua can do, which, by the way, I don't think is their number one priority. And then the second part of this is Miami now becomes, in my mind, buddy, the next place where the disgruntled veteran quarterback goes because they have everything.
That's exactly right. And I think they're set up for Tua or Teddy. Can you do it? If not, this is the ready-made roster for somebody to jump in and let's go ahead and go after a championship. And who that is, I don't even know who that could possibly be. So I think you're exactly right. That's where you sit at this juncture right now. Listen, I'm just going to throw something out there. I know that we're still looking for another receiver here. Remember, not only is it Waddle and is it Hill, they just signed Cedric Wilson in free agency.
Right. It's true.
So, and they've got Gesicki, who they franchise tagged. They bring in Chase Edmonds and Mostert. I think Mostert is going to thrive in this offense, and I think Chase Edmonds will as well. They've got two pretty darn good backs. But they also have a guy who was a former first-round pick. And they also have a guy who, if you go back and you do some of the history of it, spent time with our wide receiver coach. And that is Devonte Parker. And so you'd have to imagine Devonte Parker is going to be somebody who could end up being available to the Cleveland Browns or any team in the league if they were looking to execute I think it's a minor trade. And this is a guy, 6'3", 219. You look at his best year. I'm going to go back and I'm going to throw out his best season. 72 catches, 1,202 yards, 9 touchdowns, and he averaged 16.7 yards per catch. Beau, do you know by any chance who the offensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins was in the year 2019?
Do tell, Nate.
It would be Chad O'Shea, our current wide receiver coach. And you look at Devontae Parker's history – with Chad O'Shea, 1 year, 72, 1202, 16.7, 9 touchdowns. If you were to say, Nathan, are those all career highs? Yes, they are. Without that, never been above 800 yards or even reached 5 touchdowns in a season. So if there's somebody that obviously has a connection and understands how you would get the best out of this individual, I believe he is on our staff. And the idea of Devontae Parker at 6'3" on one side, Amari Cooper on the other, I think you could even kick Amari Cooper inside. And then maybe throw in a Will Fuller to the mix. I feel like you have an opportunity, or a rookie with DPJ and with Schwartz, you have an opportunity to be absolutely loaded. And I think we're going to see the Browns be a team that plays more 11 personnel this year because that's where the strength is going to lie if they're able to make some of these moves. But that's a name that I certainly am intrigued by, and I would imagine in our building that we would be intrigued by given that success and that relationship between Devontae Parker and Chad O'Shea. These are not scores whatsoever. This is just okay, here's something that might not have been available that now you would imagine. They can't play all 4 of those guys. They paid Tyreek that money. They're playing Waddle, and they just paid Cedric Wilson pretty good money, if I'm not mistaken.
They did, yeah. No, it's an incredible ripple effect with this thing. with all of these deals that have happened here in the NFL in the last week, it's been absolutely bonkers what's happened. Go ahead.
Yeah, Wilson signed a 3-year contract worth $22 million. The deal includes $12.75 guaranteed. So that's certainly
you can't have all those receivers.
You're not paying this guy 22 over 3, 12.7 guaranteed over probably the first 2 to not be involved in what you're doing. Like, that's your third receiver money. So Devonte Parker at that point, to me, becomes somebody that they're going to want to move on from.
Well, I mean, it'd be a hell of a fit, buddy. It'd be a hell of a fit.
Yeah.
I mean, these AFC, we've been over a bunch of times the AFC West. We know it's in our division. The AFC East, you now have Buffalo, who is a surefire blue blood Super Bowl contender. You have New England, who feels like they're close with a good young quarterback, feels like they're close. And now you have a Dolphins team with all of these weapons and a bright offensive mind, players coach that a lot of players seem to like. And now they've gotten this at the receive. It's the fastest receiving core. I can't imagine there's been one faster. But I can't imagine it.
By the way,
not at the high end.
Parker under contract for 2 more years with cap hits of $8.7 million this year and $9 million next year. So certainly not an exorbitant fee whatsoever for a guy who flashed why he was a first-round pick in that season a couple years ago. But no, this is a wide receiving core with speed. This is a team with immense talent in terms of what it can do on the offense. It's got an offensive a genius from the gangster tree and Mike McDaniel running the show. They are going to be intriguing. I think right now, like I put them with the addition to Tyreek Hill and knowing their good defense, they're my second team in the AFC East. You're going to have an AFC West where 4 teams think they're going, an AFC North where 4 teams think they're going, an AFC East now where 3 teams think they're going, and an AFC South where 2 teams think they're going.
It's 13.
That's right.
It's 13 teams thinks they're playoff teams, buddy. I mean, it's crazy what just happened. And again, it's for them it'll be the quarterback situation. Is that good enough to take full advantage of these skill sets? My hunch is it's not, but they're well positioned for whatever comes a year from now.
They're also coming from the Kyle tree and philosophy, McDaniel, and he'll have his own wrinkle on everything. But this is an offense that has supported number 1 receivers very well. Julio Jones, for example. Andre Johnson, if you go all the way back to the days when Kyle was the offensive coordinator for the Texans under Gary Kubiak. You can support a number 1 receiver in this offense. Now, this is not an offense that has been run out of 11 personnel a ton, but I think you'll obviously see that with the investments that were made there. And the crazy part to me is Gesicki is really their slot receiver. So just the play, like there's no doubt in my mind that there's an availability with a Devonte Parker. They're just not going to play. Yeah. So that's I find very intriguing. But it is a shot play offense in the sense that you will run off of the play action, the deep posts, the deep overs, and some just straight up goes. But it's not. Yeah. This is not going to be a Chiefs offense where you're in shotgun and you got the 4 wides out there and everybody's running around doing all kinds of crazy stuff. That's not what's going to happen. So within that framework is Tua able to drive the ball on some of these plays. Now, if he has any experience with anything that he would seem to be pretty good at was throwing to receivers who were open by 3 to 5 yards in college. And you would imagine that this scheme with this talent will produce, I think, a lot of fairly similar situations for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is in play. It's just the recovery speed in the NFL is so much different. I just wonder. I am really surprised that an NFC team did not get involved here.
Yeah.
Because that side is wide open. The top of it is very heavy, obviously. But other than those 3 teams, and to me, honestly, I don't even know if can you put the Packers in there without Adams? Who the heck's catching passes from Aaron Rodgers right now? Who are their receivers?
They're going to draft them. That's why I think this draft, and even though I know we currently don't have a first-round pick right now, I do think that how this first round goes and the number of teams that are going to be, taking 1, maybe 2 receivers in the first round is something like we've never even seen before. I mean, you could ultimately end up, and I'm curious to see some of these mocks, but I think you could get 10 receivers ultimately end up going in the first round just because so many teams are going to want them.
Yeah.
It's going to be well. By the way, I just have to jump real quick. I have fans on here. Fans, I love your guys, how long your memories are. People are saying not interested in Devonte Parker. He and his mom talked badly about Cleveland before the draft. Folks, this is a completely different Browns organization. It's a completely different situation. And we all say things, I'm sure, that we regret at times. I wouldn't like comparing the Browns at that time and the Browns now is apples and tacos. Like, it's just not the same thing. And we don't need to be so, I don't think, hold on to such a grudge like that for so long.
No, it's not healthy for starters. Like, you can't. It's just not healthy to live that way for starters. Bad job out of Gibbe. He calls it a football Wednesday. Obviously, it's not a Wednesday. We don't say that word on the show, Gibbe. Sad. Poor. Bad job out of you, demerit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just you hate to see that. Hate to see that.
Take things in moderation these days.
Well, not today. Today you live, boys. Today you absolutely live. So in the NFC.
Today.
Oh.
Happy Wednesday.
Where we have that? That's in the mix
for us.
Severe weather after 3:00.
Really?
Oh, Gibbe.
Not a tornado here. Probably Northwest Ohio could be a tour con. Could be a 3 out of 5. Northwest Ohio later. But damaging wind, hail. Going to be a fantastic weekend. Good weekend for you to get away, if you can.
Well, today was DEFCON 1. Today was test day on the COVID, and I can tell you, we're in the clear, baby. So
in the clear. Let's go.
We're in the clear. We're in the clear. Now it's up to the Bohemian government. Like, get us those health visas, and away we go. That's where we're at, boys. So it's this was a big hurdle to clear. We did the preliminary testing here with the home test this morning. I just wanted to have a little feel, just kind of a dry run to see if there was anything we needed to worry about. There was not, and now the official testing is back, and we're negatives across the board. So we're flying on Saturday, and from what I can understand, the weather will be 80 and sunny. So that will be much welcomed on that front. All right, lots to get to, including our needs in all of this, because there are still several. It's been quiet for a couple of days since the big transaction last week. We will get into that. We'll get into some salary cap stuff with Joel Corey coming up next. It is Pro Day at Ohio State. Could there be some guys down the roster we could be taking a look at? We'll take a look at that as well. Lots to get to here on a First Friday edition of the program. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Are your business operations suffering from internal communication breakdowns? Beau Bishop here for my friends at EOX Vantage. Their data scientists are also business operations experts. Your EOX Vantage team helps you build a streamlined communication system that brings together your email, your chat, intranet announcements, CRM into one clear flow. Your people, including those who work remotely, gain a centralized hub that encourages collaboration. No more disconnected communication methods that leave team members out of the loop or not on the same page. Real, everyday business problems solved with EOX Vantage. See how other business owners are getting everyone on the same page by visiting EOXVantage.com for more details. And with that, we head out on the hotline for a visit with our good buddy Joel Corey. He's the host of the Inside the Cap podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, you want to get smarter about the business of football, this is the guy you want to talk to. And, of course, at CBSSports.com. He's a great friend of the program. Joel, thanks for your time. Let's just start with what we've seen here in the last week. With the deal that we gave Deshaun Watson in terms of the financial money and the guaranteed money, and then what could be happening with this Tyreek Hill situation, the Devonte Adams situation. Is the NFL market, has it been reset in the last week?
Well, I'm curious to see how much of a game changer Deshaun Watson's contract is going to be, because $230 million fully guaranteed at signing just is significantly more than anybody else has ever had. The amount of money fully guaranteed at signing, there was a record previously was what Aaron Rodgers just got at $101.5 million, and his total guarantees of $150.7 were the most. This is basketball player money in terms of guarantees. You see this in a contract like Giannis Antetokounmpo got. His 5-year extension is $228.2 million, fully guaranteed. Steph Curry signed a 4-year extension last August that's fully guaranteed for $215.4 million, and he's under contract for 5 years, including this year, for a fully guaranteed $261 million. The Devonte Adams contract has to be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt, because the last 2 years the salaries are like $34.5 million. He's not playing under those 2 years. So instead of it being $28 million per year, realistically it's $67.5 million over 3 years. I'm not falling into that trap again of Tyreek Hill's deal. The first report I saw was $120 million over 4 years. Then I saw something that is $75 million over 3 years of new money. So until I see the breakdown, I'm going to only comment so much on Tyreek Hill.
So some people were saying, oh, this, the Watson and all the guaranteed money, that was going to trickle into everything. And clearly we have seen that is not the case thus far with these two deals in terms of fully guaranteed. Is that something that's going to be exclusive to the quarterback position, do you think?
Yeah, you're going to need quarterbacks to capitalize on what Deshaun Watson has done. The last time we had a fully guaranteed contract was Kirk Cousins in 2018. Nobody else was able to get a fully guaranteed contract, at least from a veteran standpoint, a lucrative one. Matt Ryan advanced the ball for guaranteed money. He got $94.5 million fully guaranteed, but that wasn't the whole contract. And that stood as the amount of money, the most money fully guaranteed for 3 years practically, because Dak Prescott got $95 million fully guaranteed in the contract he signed last year with the Cowboys. We'll have to see first Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson advance the ball and try to capitalize on what Watson's done, because they are two guys who are eligible for contract extensions. Jackson's in a contract year. Murray wants a contract in the worst way. He's being extremely impatient. But if they don't get it, I'd keep an eye on Russell Wilson for one reason. He's got 2 years left on his contract, so 2023 is his contract year. But his agent, Mark Rogers, has tried to do creative stuff with Wilson's contracts unsuccessfully. He tried to tie the latter years of compensation and a couple of Seattle extensions to the growth in the cap. That's never happened in the NFL. And also, he's a baseball agent by trade. Baseball contracts are fully guaranteed for the most part. So he might see this as the opening to try to get Russell Wilson a fully guaranteed contract.
Talking with Joel Corey, the best in the business when it comes to breaking down the cap. He is the host of the Inside the Cap podcast. He does it for CBSSports.com. Joel, you mentioned Kyler and Lamar, and Lamar would even be more pressing. I also think in our own division down the road, Burrow. how difficult does this start to get for teams? And when you think about the Lamar situation, because if memory serves, Joel, he's representing himself still. How do you find – I mean, thank God they're not our problems. We're doing Cleveland Browns daily, but I'm just thinking big picture NFL. How do you find common ground here?
Well, we have seen other players who didn't have an agent and represented themselves and had some advisors helping them. I'm assuming Lamar is the same, has somebody helping him. Bobby Wagner was recently released, became the highest paid off-ball linebacker when he signed his contract a couple of years ago. Laremy Tunsil didn't have an agent. He set the market for offensive lineman DeAndre Hopkins. Didn't have an agent and got a renegotiated deal with 3 years left. The one thing I would be concerned about with Lamar Jackson is he hasn't had a sense of urgency in wanting to do his contract. He tabled discussions last year because he wanted to focus on football, and there have been reports that he isn't afraid of the franchise tag. And if you got a guy who isn't afraid of the franchise tag like Cousins and is really to see it through, that might force the Ravens to do something they wouldn't otherwise just because they wouldn't want him to eventually get to market.
When you look at these markets, and you mentioned there with Lamar doing his own thing and just kind of the way things are moving around, let's just focus on the receivers for a second because it's relevant to the Browns. When you saw the deal the Browns worked out with Amari Cooper, and then you've seen what's happened with Devonte Adams, and you've seen what's happened with Tyreek Hill, and I'm not suggesting that Amari Cooper's produced on the level of either of those guys, but how do you kind of make sense of, and would you grade the Browns in terms of what they were able to do to the comp they gave to get Cooper, and then also being able to get him for 3 years and $60 over the next 3?
Well, it was minimal draft capital to get him, and what you see sometimes is when a team knows that a player is going to get cut and they don't want to be bidding for his services after he's released, they'll throw a pick to the team's way to try to make sure they get the guy.
Yep.
First, Amari Cooper has to produce this year, or they very well could cut him even though they just restructured the contract so that they converted almost all of his base salary of $20 million into signing bonus. You could get rid of him next year. You'd have $15.014 million of dead money if he doesn't produce. But if he does produce, you've got a guy who's now cost contained. $60 million over 3 years is essentially what Chris Godwin got to re-up with Tampa, and that's what the Chargers are paying Mike Williams on his new contract. It's just that you don't have $40 million in guarantees associated with these 3 years like those two contracts do.
Joel, we get a lot of pushback from time to time. We see it a lot on social about how, the cap's not real. But there's obviously plenty of instances that prove, in fact, that it is. Who are the best at manipulating it, and how much can you manipulate it before eventually coming to a point where there is no way out of it? Can you kind of just explain that thinking for the folks out there listening?
Well, I call that a credit card approach or credit card mentality to salary cap management. When you buy something on a credit card, there's a certain price you pay today, but once you figure out all the interest, you may end up paying 1.5 or 2 times more if you make minimum payments or don't pay a significant portion of it off pretty quickly. Now, the Saints kicked the can down the road more than anybody else. Last year, because of the pandemic, everyone saw the cap drop to $182.5 million from $98.2 million the previous year. So they ended up cutting players they wouldn't have otherwise if the cap had gone up the way everyone had been projecting. And teams look at things in 3-year snapshots. So there were players that they got rid of because they had to, which they wouldn't have otherwise. Now, with the new TV money coming in the next year or two, you should be able to outrun kicking the can down the road because there are going to be enough cap increases where you'll be able to absorb it. It was only in the pandemic year when everything went backwards that you had teams who had to cut players that they wouldn't have otherwise. The Eagles, another team which kicks the can down the road with the best of them. The Cowboys do it. One of the reasons they stuck the dummy voiding year in the Dak Prescott's contract, it's a 4-year deal. They stuck 2 dummy voiding years in there so they could prorate the contract when they do restructures over more years. Pittsburgh historically had done that, and you guys are starting to do that as well. Next year, you're going to have to do Deshaun Watson. There's no way he's playing on a $54.993 million cap number.
And that's where it kind of comes in, and you can kick the can down the road, as you said, as long until someday you have to call and pay the piper, as it were. What are you seeing? What trends are you seeing from around the league? Because even in this initial wave of free agency, at least from it feels like to me, the gap between veterans who are superstars and veterans who are not superstars is bigger than ever. It feels like it's rookie contracts, guys who get paid huge money, and then a lot of guys who are right around the veteran minimum or making very, very low-end money. The middle class, there isn't really like a highly compensated middle class.
Yeah, the incredibly shrinking middle class has been a phenomenon for quite a while. There's certain teams like the Patriots who haven't paid a lot of players the high end and have tried to amass more talent or depth by having a middle class, but typically you see haves and have-nots. One thing I'm finding really interesting is what the Chargers are doing, which is what you should do. You have Justin Herbert, as cheap as he's ever going to be, on a cost-contained rookie contract. So they're trying to load up talent while they have him as cheap as they can, because he's going to be a $50 million per year player, if not in 2023 and 2024. You may have low cap numbers until 2025, but eventually you're going to be like the Chiefs are now, contending with a quarterback with much bigger cap numbers than you have in the past, and then it becomes a case where you can't keep everyone. And we see with Kansas City, that's why Tyreek Hill is now Miami.
Wow. Fascinating stuff. Always appreciate you, Joel. Thanks for your time today.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Joel Corey. He's the host of the Inside the Cap podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, it's a must-listen if you want to get smarter about the business of football, and a salary cap expert at CBSSports.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Corey Joel, Corry, Joel, Joel on that front. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family-owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you become part of the family. Visit Rumpke.com to learn more. Pro Day down 71 South in Columbus. Anybody there we need to keep our eye on. And I wanted to come back to one thing he said about Kyler Murray. We'll get into that coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. OBM, Ohio Business Machine preferred copier provider, your Cleveland Browns. They have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. Before we get to the pro day stuff, as we were thinking about the next quarterback, I wonder if it's Kyler Murray. I wonder if he's the next one that hits the market and says, I'm out. He's got the leverage. He seems to not be thrilled with Arizona. Could he be the next one that hits the market?
So one thing that's crazy to me is that the Chiefs let's go back to the Tyreek Hill situation. Let's go back to even
it all ties.
Watson or Russell Wilson. All these guys had no trade clauses. So they ultimately got to dictate their landing spots. They chose. They decided. There's no way on a rookie deal Kyler Murray has that. So
no, he does not have that.
So he wouldn't have the ability to say, "Oh, I'll go to Miami," or "I'll, whatever it may be." I think
he has the baseball though.
But they don't. They're under no obligation to set you. Oh, go play baseball. Go ahead. If that's really what you wanted to do, you'd be doing it. Like, go ahead. I just don't think.
Yeah, that would be the way you would play it. I just want he is the only one who kind of has that leverage without the no trade clause leverage.
I still just don't think he'd be able to pick where he goes. They're going to be like, you want to get out of here? Fine, we're getting the best.
I'm not suggesting that. I just mean, is he? We went. It was funny. Somebody asked me this on the morning show, and they asked me about. It was one of the questions was, did you ever have to deal with it was in regard to one of your favorite players not playing for your team anymore? And now you dealt with that with Montana, but that was at the end of his career. I have no point of reference for that. My favorite players played with that team forever. This generation of kids is growing up in a way where players are transient. I mean, you just think about what's happened here. Wilson's 32, Watson's 26. These are young franchise quarterbacks still in their prime or just entering their prime in the case of Watson, and they've been moved.
Yep.
That never happened in the NFL. Quarterbacks didn't move. You drafted a quarterback. As long as you wanted him, you had him. And now it's we're more open to moving them and more open to the idea of it. So I just wonder, I thought the Jackson stuff is interesting too in terms of him playing under the franchise tag for a bunch of years and then eventually getting to market. I don't know. I just thought that just struck me. I just took note of that with Kyler and the way that's what he's trying to do out there in Arizona.
I just personally think he's in a much different spot, and I think that his body of work has not necessarily been on the level that he would want it to be to feel like he had that much clout. It does feel
how he feels and the reality are two different things.
For sure, and
he views himself as Aaron Rodgers, I think,
which he's not, and I think you go into his numbers, which again are very solid. He's got excellent numbers.
Oh, yeah.
67% completion, 70 touchdowns, 34 interceptions for his career, 2-1 over the last 2 years. It's 50 touchdowns, only 22 interceptions. Quarterback rating, 93 for his career. He gives you stuff with his legs as well. But he's also had a significant, it feels like, and some people would say, well, this is Cliff, right? But he's had a significant,
right.
His seasons have always been better in the first half than they have been in the second half. And I don't know what the reason of that is. I just don't know that his is a tough one. Because
it is.
When you think about what he's done in his career and where he is, yes, you could say that he would be disgruntled. He's made one playoff appearance in his career, which was this year, right? 19-34, 2 picks against the Rams. They got trounced, 34-11.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one, but if you're him, your best bet is to stay in this conference for sure. And
no doubt.
Who's the roster that you're dying to go jump into?
I mean, he might be – you don't know what is going on in his head. His attitude might be, I'm going to go play in Dallas. I've always wanted to play for the Cowboys. I'm going home.
Sure.
I'm going to play for the Cowboys. They're just a different mentality now, I guess is my point. And I think I agree with you. He has leverage because of the baseball stuff because he's a legit baseball player. He has that leverage. And so there is some leverage there if he wanted to play it. I don't know if he would or if it would ever get that bad. But I think he's one to watch on that front, where that negotiation goes. And I think a couple other ones are going to be interesting to watch when you talk about the guaranteed money you're going to have to throw out. I'll be very interested to see what happens on the Joe Burrow extension in terms of the guaranteed money. Are they going to be willing to write a check at $250 million guaranteed for Joe Burrow? Because I think that's the vicinity Burrow will be in by the time it comes up in a couple of years. So that's what I thought was fascinating about the Joel Corey conversation of the Deshaun Watson idea of being compensated like an NBA player.
Yeah.
And that he could be the first of many where that is the case. And remember, we said this. I'm pretty sure. I feel like we said it on this show. But when Mahomes signed the 10-year $400, we were like, I think by the end of that thing's going to be a deal. It'll end up being a steal.
Yeah.
And it will be. It's going to end up being a steal by the time everything's done on that.
Well, and they're all going to have to get reworked. You know what I mean? Even as Joel pointed out with the Deshaun Watson one, the cap number is going to have to be reworked for if you're the Browns with Deshaun Watson. And so that's where a lot of this stuff is. It's moving it down and then continually going. But at some point, you always are going to have to make good on it. And the Browns, I think, are very smart. They're constantly planning for the short and for the long term. And so they will have a plan, but it is not something that is just as easy, I think, sometimes as people think it is. It's going to be a fascinating thing, though, to just see how this plays out around the league. And then to know, for example, if you are, let's say, the Ravens, and this is what it's going to require, you have to have a real confidence in the fact that Lamar Jackson and the style of football and quarterback that he plays can bring a Super Bowl to your team.
Yeah. Sure you do. Can he stay upright?
Right.
Can he stay healthy? I mean, they both might be comfortable playing on the tag.
Yeah.
Both him and them might be. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating thing here, and the management of that cap is something. I just, that's the deal with when you think about as we bring it back to the top of the show, when you think about the Tyreek Hill being moved, there was no chance 2 years ago you thought he would play his prime anywhere other than Kansas City.
Nope.
And today, out of nowhere, he's a Miami Dolphin.
I mean, in the matter of an
that's
hour.
What happened and how quick it.
In
an
an hour.
It feels like in an hour, yeah.
It's
wild. I was going to ask you on that. Do you think the fact that the COVID, like we've been in this COVID world for like the last 2 years, that I kind of believe that that's why some of this stuff has snuck up on people. Like same thing with like the Wilson trade to the Broncos. I mean, that came out of nowhere. Not that he would go to the Broncos. If he was going to go, that was always a landing spot, clearly. But it all of a sudden it happened. Like there was no whisper of it. It just happened. And this Tyreek Hill thing, there was nothing. And then it just happened. Like, how would anybody know? And I just wonder if, you're not in locker rooms anymore. You're not talking to people. I think some of it is even happening. I think some of it even happened with Baker here, where there was a little bit of a disconnect in terms of the reality versus the perception.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's kind of happened in the league. Like, because of 2 years of COVID and just a lack of access to players, that you don't get a real feel kind of for what's actually going on in buildings.
I think that there is some of that. I think that I thought maybe the angle you were going to go with was with COVID is that some of these guys who had been, seeing just how quickly perhaps something could come up where the game could be taken away from them, that their ability to be with the teammates they like or to live in the city that they want to live in. And they're saying, I think people are saying, I'm not waiting anymore.
Yeah.
I'm living.
Yeah, that's
so
probably part of it too. Yeah.
I want to go. I want to be in Denver. I'm going to Denver. I'm done with this. I want to be in Cleveland. I'm going to Cleveland. I want to be, the highest. I want to get all my money as fast as I can in the case of Tyreek Hill because he wanted the Chiefs to pay him more than Devonte Adams. Period. That was the deal. That's what he wanted. They said no. So he said, okay, then I'm out. I'm going to get as much money as I can. And I think there's a lot of that in some of this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, some of this stuff's just coming out of nowhere, or so it seems. And it feels like there had to be some groundwork being laid on these deals, before all of a sudden today. Like, I don't think you consummate a Tyreek Hill deal in 2 hours. It had to be something that was, had been addressed for the last couple of weeks, obviously. And we saw that even with Deshaun. When you read the Jason Lloyd piece, the Albert Breer piece, that this was something that was being looked into as long ago as November and then really looked into in January. So, I think, there was no real hint of that any of that was going on. So I just think things are kept quieter the last couple of years kind of because of the fact that we've been locked out of everything. We have Pro Day in Columbus. We'll go over some of that. We've got some mock drafts to go over as well. Obviously, we're not picking in the first round, but still some interesting things to keep our eyes on. We will do that coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Weather is cold outside. Could get really interesting here in the next few days. A nice hot bath or shower would feel great, and you could transform that bathroom of yours into a custom bath that will make it feel like a spa, and you can do it in about a day with my friends at the Bath Authority. They can make it a reality for you at a fraction of the cost of competitors. The Bath Authority is Cleveland's premier bath and shower remodeler, expert factory-trained installers, largest selection of bath projects. They're all made in the United States. It'll allow you to change your bathroom from outdated to outstanding. Acrylic tubs that insulate and keep the heat in. Tub-to-shower conversions as well. Superior products with expert installers. I encourage you to give them a call now for $500 off your next custom bath or shower remodel. That number is 216-220-8399. You can go to thebathauthority.com for more. Again, that's $500 off. Tell them Beau sent you. 216-220-8399 on that. Pro Day down in Columbus, one that would have certainly had a lot of attention for us, less attention for us now with the fact that we do not have a first-round pick, and both of those receivers will be long, long gone. Could both be gone by the time you get to the 20s if you're paying attention to these mocks. When I say Pro Day to you, what comes to mind?
Like a showcase day, a day for players at big schools to kind of put on a show, quarterbacks being circuses, and all of Johnny Manziel's Pro Day was probably the first Pro Day that would come to my mind in terms of just famous and the helmet and the camo and the whole deal.
Do you think that if you are someone who was, I don't know, under the age of 12 at the time of Manziel's Pro Day, and you tried to explain that circus and the phenomenon around that, could you?
Maybe I have this wrong, but wasn't George Bush in attendance in a golf cart?
Yes, was. The
entire
football world was there. A former president of the United States.
Impossible.
He did it in a helmet with a visor
and pads,
and shoulder pads,
camo shorts or whatever.
Camo shorts. Yeah. Nike was selling the jersey.
Yeah.
The jersey.
It was just a black too. Yeah.
Just a black quarterback jersey. They were selling that. You could buy that at Nike.com.
Yep.
I remember what was the fascination? Did we just not think that he could throw? Did he not have an arm? Like you could see at Texas A&M that he had an arm. I mean, what were we so worried about? Was it his height, his size?
I just think people, they're fascinated.
Or just
Johnny football is a phenomenon.
I have to assume the only reason a 30 for 30 has not been done on that yet is that he will not participate.
That feels right.
Because it has all of it. It's got everything you need. It's got that time from his 2 years at A&M to his stint here and then the immediate aftermath there's very few instances in sports history similar.
Yeah.
I can assure you we've got some good stories for that 30 for 30.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we can't talk to the bottom right now.
No. I believe that we cannot.
I think that's
Imagine
why that 30 for 30 hasn't been done.
Yeah.
Even without that, though, it's all there for you.
Yes.
Most of it's documented.
Yes.
Wild.
Most of it.
That's the first one that I think of is John. When I think of Pro Day, I think of Johnny Manziel and just the circus surrounding it. Wild. Cardale Jones throwing down there, C.J. Stroud. That will be the next. If I was an NFC team at the bottom, then next year's quarterback draft should be pretty good with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. That'll be a fun draft next year at the top of the draft. But this year it's pretty limited. So we have some mock drafts to go over here. We've got Daniel Jeremiah's most recent mock draft.
Can I ask a real quick question?
Please.
Are you confident that Cardale's going to help improve your draft stock?
On fly routes, he will. He can throw all the goes you want. I mean, I bet he can still throw it 75 in the air.
I'm just throwing it out there. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's still got the whip. I mean, I know he's still got the whip. You know, they'll have CJ throw all the intermediate stuff, and then they'll just have him throw goes. I think I saw some stuff already this morning with some video of him just throwing go routes. And there was one he threw at 75 in the air. I mean, he's still got that.
Okay. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah. No, I think he'll be fine. And they'll have CJ throw all the stuff underneath to Olave and Wilson, and that's how that'll go, I'm sure. And not that CJ doesn't have the arm, but I mean, you don't want to. There's no reason for him to tax it for nothing. So that's kind of where that thing goes. Is there a trend as you're looking at these, Z, that jumps out to you in terms of, whether it's players pick positions? There is one thing that jumped out to me with I believe it's Kuipers. Yeah, it's Kuipers. with the kid out of Notre Dame, the safety, going number 2 overall, Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Going 3 overall, rather. And I was trying to think, does he have him 2? Or does
2.
He have him 2?
2 to the Lions.
2 overall, 2 to the Lions. Is that the highest a safety's ever gone?
Yeah, I think it would be. Right.
Sean Taylor went like 6. Eric Berry
was in the, but I think he was 5.
Gibby, what about Eric Turner? Here. Where did he go? Out of UCLA.
Good player.
Really good player and highly regarded.
Stand by.
I don't know if he's
hell of a career. Unfortunately, a life ended too soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that jumps out to me that I just didn't, maybe I wasn't paying attention to. The Eagles have picks 15, 16, and 19?
Yeah.
He was the number 2 draft pick in the 91 draft.
There you go.
Number 2 overall?
Yes. Round 1, pick 2.
Wow.
There you go.
Well, there it is then. That's the highest to safety. That's a good job out of me. That's the highest to safety's ever gone then.
Ball's not going to spike itself.
No. So that's so Hamilton would match that if he goes 2 to the Lions.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think from a trend standpoint is this: you have so many, the Jets, the Giants, the Eagles, the Chiefs now, and the Packers all have multiple ones.
I mean, the Jets pick at what? They pick at 10. And what do they pick? 3?
So the Jets have picks 10 and I want to say 4.
10 and 4.
10. They have 4 and 10.
4.
The Giants have 5 and 7.
Yeah.
The Eagles have 15, 16, and 19. The Packers have 22. That's why that 22 is in my head. And 28. The Chiefs have 29 and 30 back-to-back. Oh, the Lions also have 32 from the Rams as part of the Matt Stafford trade. So the Lions have 2 and 32 for the Lions.
Wow.
And the Houston Texans have 3
13.
and 13. I mean,
there's like 5 teams that control the whole first round.
By the way, a little more context on safeties.
Yeah.
There's only been one safety chosen with a top 5 NFL draft pick since '92. Can you name him?
There's been only one
Eric
safety.
Berry.
What?
There's been only one safety chosen with a top 5 NFL
Jamal
draft
Adams.
pick since '92.
Jamal Adams.
Eric Berry.
Wrong.
Who?
Sean Taylor.
Sean Taylor. What pick was Jamal Adams? 6?
What pick was Eric Berry?
I thought Berry was 5.
The last time a safety was selected in the top 3 was Eric Turner back in '91.
Berry must have been 6 or 7. C.J. Spiller, I think,
Berry
was
was
6
fifth.
that year. He was 5th.
Berry was 5th.
That's what I thought.
5th.
Yeah, Gibby.
This is from Walter Football.
What pick was
Well, he's
Jamal?
wrong.
What pick was Jamal Adams?
Jamal Adams was high too. I think he was.
I thought he was
in
4.
that mix. I'm pulling up. He's 6.
6. Okay.
Jamal Adams is 6. Eric Berry's
Berry's
5.
5.
Berry's 5. Yeah. Taylor was 4. Is that what we settled on?
I'm hesitant to say based on the current
he's
information I'm rifling.
Sean Taylor was 5th too. So Taylor was 5th and Berry was 5th. Yeah.
Has there ever been a time in the
Turner was 2, which is
Yes.
crazy.
Has there ever been a time in the history of the league where 7 different teams had multiple first-round picks in the same draft?
I can't imagine. I'll tell you. As we're going over this, you look at the Jeremiah one. Just use that as an example. Which fan base is more upset? Carolina, with the pick of, like Jeremiah has them picking an offensive tackle.
Evan Neal.
Kuiper has them picking a defensive end.
Yep.
Like they don't get no quarterback. They just continue to do that. Like really, you think that they're going to do that with where that ownership has been? That they're not going to go for something flashy with that pick. And then the other one would be the Rodgers pick. I think Kuiper has them going guard in their first pick, and then getting Burks with their with their second first-round pick.
The who's pick?
Like if they don't take the Packers.
Packers.
So Kuiper has the Packers taking Kenyon Green, a guard out of A&M, but not a receiver at 22. Like I feel like if they don't take a receiver at 22, does Rodgers just stop?
Jeremiah has them going Olave at 22 and Dotson at 28.
To me, that would make more sense for them. Like that they would go.
He's
that
got
way.
Jamison Williams 21, Olave 22, Treylon Burks 23, Dotson 28. And this was done before the trade because now you have to feel Kansas City's taking a receiver with one of their 2 picks now at the end of this first round.
Yeah, because they would pick at 29 and 30.
So, and this has Kuiper's got Malik Willis going 20 to Pittsburgh. But it's funny, after a pro day, everybody's saying, "Oh, but he's going to go, much, much, much sooner than that." Jeremiah's got Kenny Pickett 18 to New Orleans. Does he not have Malik Willis going?
I'm going through it. I don't see. I don't see him in the first round.
He doesn't have Malik Willis going in the first round. Oh, baby.
I would be surprised if Malik Willis went 6 to Carolina.
No, same.
I mean, just
again,
or Atlanta at 8. Like
the fact that Jeremiah and Kuiper don't have the Falcons taking a quarterback in number 8. Say what you want about the class, about this quarterback class. Unless you plan on tanking for next year, you're going to want to take that quarterback at number 8.
Or Seattle. I mean, there's so like.
I mean, you may not love these guys. I get it, but like you by the time you get to the draft, one of those 2 teams is going to talk themselves into it. They're going to talk themselves into it. You can't take another defensive player if you're Carolina and trot out Sam Darnold.
So Kuiper also has Pickett going to the Saints at 18, and that is his first quarterback, and Willis going at 20. I mean, if you're taking a quarterback, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I have a hard time imagining that both, especially Carolina, even more than Atlanta. I think Atlanta could sell Mariota for a year.
Carolina, though, is clearing space, and a lot of people think that's where Garoppolo is going to end up.
I'm not convinced Garoppolo's going anywhere.
I said that yesterday. Agreed.
I'm not. I'm not. I don't know that he's going anywhere. I don't know. If I'm San Francisco, based on what's happened in the NFC, I might just hang out. I mean, he's under contract. They're not in any sort of cap hell.
No.
Hang out for a year. Run it back with him. Another year of Lance to learn it. There's no reason not to, in my view. All right, we got a little higher lower coming up at the bottom of the hour. Some interesting rule tweaks from the USFL coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau here for Char Whiskey Bar and Grill in Rocky River. They got 300 whiskeys, craft cocktails. They're paired with from-scratch menu items. But this is the attention getter. Char has Pappy. They have Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. They have Old Forester. They're in stock. They're ready to go. Stop by this week, perhaps on a First Friday. Enjoy a pour. If you've always been wanting to have it, now you can. Char has it. Stop in, watch the games this weekend. It's a great place to do that. Fantastic menu. Don't forget about the amazing food, obviously. Support local. Visit Char Whiskey Bar and Grill in Rocky River or at charrockyriver.com. All right, buddy, these are some USFL rules. You tell me if you like these.
Okay.
You say we'll go pass-fail.
Okay.
Scoring. All right, new league rules released Wednesday. Several twists. Scoring teams have a third option to attempt an extra point. A successful scrimmage play from the 10-yard line equals 3 points.
So now you could feasibly score 9 points in a possession?
9 points in a possession. I think the 10-yard line is my problem. I think that seems too easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, like it should be from the 40.
Yeah. Not for the 4.
Fail?
I just 9's just too much. It's too you
got to back it up. It can't be from the 10.
Right. And people would say, well, but
You're
2
it
points
to make it really hard.
2 points is only from the 2-yard line. I would say if you want 3, you have to do it from where the extra point's kicked. That's where you start the ball. You have an option.
Like a 35. What is that? Like a
No, it's like the 18, I think. It's probably like the 18-yard line.
Because it's a 35-yard field goal, yeah.
Right.
So 18, yeah.
So you got to either
put it at the 20.
I would have it all just be from that one spot and say you can go for 1 or you can go for 3. Forget this 2-point business.
Yeah. A second option to retain possession after scoring will be converting a 4th and 12 from a team's 33.
So you could, instead of an onside kick, you have one play to get 12 yards, and if you don't get it, they get the ball right there.
Yeah.
Again, way too easy. No.
That's what I think.
Why is everything built for people to come back? Be better. Be ahead.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I'm going to go off on just a side tangent right here. It's like all of this stuff. Like cornhole, when you play with the people who are like, oh, you went over 21. You were at 20, but you threw it in the middle of the hole. Oh, you're over. Now you got to go back to 13. Like, don't penalize me for greatness. Don't penalize me for scoring more. Like in the NBA, they don't say, oh, you scored 140 this game, but now you go back to 40 points when you were only supposed to score 100. And what is this in Pong? You automatically get a rebuttal? Why? I beat you.
I don't know anything about the rebuttal in Pong.
They get to shoot, and if they shoot until they miss, and they can come all the way back. It's all nonsense.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Don't suck. That's the
right.
Key
It's the mediocrization of everything. Oh, it's okay. You're getting beat. Now you can get a 9-point drive, and here just complete a 12-yard. Remember, can you score a touchdown on that play? Do they have to defend the whole field? Like getting 12 yards when they potentially could go for 60. Does that count as a touchdown? If they what is that? No.
Right.
Absurd. It needs to be
stupid.
30 yards if you want to pull a rabbit, or 25 yards. You're talking about getting a possession in the National Football League, or in this case, the USFL. It's got to be 12 yards.
Yeah.
People go walk on a football field, and I realize how difficult it is for NFL teams to get 10 yards in 3 plays at times, and that's why they're 3 and outs. 12 yards is not that far.
No.
It's like right there. Like, you always put your arm out and touch it.
I agree. All right, in overtime, each team's offense will alternate plays against the opposing defense from the 2. Each successful scoring attempt will receive 2 points. The team with the most points after 3 plays wins. The following attempts become sudden death if the score is tied after each team runs 3 plays. The overtime period will extend until a winner is declared. So it's a best of 3. You get 3 plays. Best of 3. Winner there. If there's no winner, then it's sudden death from that point on.
Best of 3 meaning what, though? Like,
whoever can score the most 2-point conversions out of 3 wins.
Okay.
So in other words, it's not over in one play, which I hate. I don't like this one.
I don't love that one either.
All right. Other distinctive rules. 2 forward passes from behind the line of scrimmage is legal. I actually don't mind that.
So you could take a snap, whip it right out to a receiver, or you could do a jet pass, and then that person could then throw it.
He could throw it. Yeah, I don't mind that.
I don't care about that either. I mean,
behind the line, I think everything behind the line should be. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. I can do that.
Fine. Yeah.
Each coach will be allowed one replay challenge. The USFL Replay Command at Fox Sports Control Center in Los Angeles will make all replay decisions. Thank God. No referee going over to us. By the way, how brutal is that in basketball? When they go over to that to that scores table, I just sucks the life out of me every time I see them walking over there.
It's like,
jeez, really? We got to move the monitor. We can't just have somebody at CBS go, "Hey, dude, it's off him. It's their ball."
It's really
worried about glare on a monitor, on a 12-inch monitor.
Yeah.
So good job out of them on that.
Yeah, ridiculous.
All kickoffs will be from the 25. No kicking team member may line up at any further back than 1 yard, while the receiving team must have at least 8 players in the setup zone between the 35 and 45. After a kickoff travels 20 yards, the first touch must be by the receiving team. If an untouched kick becomes dead, the ball belongs to the receiving team at that spot.
Ask Preef.
Yeah.
I don't know. That sounds like a lot of
it's
things that I'm not capable of comprehending.
On punts, gunners may not line up outside the numbers and can be double-team blocked until the ball is kicked. So all of this is to create returns. Is what these both seem to be, that we're trying to create more return scores and more excitement from that, which has largely been ruled out of the NFL game. It's really hard now to return anything with much success, certainly kicks. The clock will stop for first downs inside 2 minutes of the second and fourth quarter.
I love this. This I actually like. And I know it's for the comeback and the drama, but this I kind of like because I like it in college when it's like you actually can go the length of the field and you can use the whole field. You get the first down, they stop it till they reset the ball. I like that part of college football. So I don't know how it would work in the NFL. It goes against my just be better. But at the same point, I do think it would add some drama to late games.
I think college gets that rule right. Clock stops on a first down.
Yep.
I think they get that rule right. You still have you've watched a ton of college. You still have all the drama. You still have all of it. It's all still there. It's just you get more of it. So to me, I like that period regardless of this 2-minute, 4-minute stuff. Like I think that's a win. Stop the ball, stop clock on a first down. The penalty for defensive pass interference will mirror the NCAA rule with exceptions. First, a defender intentionally tackling a receiver beyond 15 yards would be a spot foul. The penalty will be a spot foul if it occurs 15 yards or less from the line of scrimmage, or a 15-yard penalty from the line of scrimmage if the spot of the foul is beyond 15 yards. So one thing I hate about the NFL, about the NFL rule, is the spot foul on all pass interference. Like, to me, it almost should be like, the NBA, they have like the flagrant ones.
Yep.
Yeah, the breakaway, or the breakaway rule in the NBA too. That's fine. Like, if you're just tackling a guy, that's spot. If you're contesting a ball in the air, that's 15 yards.
Same.
And it's very obvious what the difference is.
Same.
This isn't hard.
Same. 100%. It will then become a subjective thing that people get mad at. But pass interference in general is a subjective thing in most instances of these calls. I also wouldn't mind on pass interference calls if they don't change the rule. I think they should change this rule. But even with a rule change, there should be somebody there that's just, when we talk about these sky judges, like the call that was made against us against the Chargers needed to be overturned. If there was any interference committed on that play, it was clearly Mike Williams committing the interference on A.J. Green and not the other way around. That needs to be gotten right because it's too massive of a play.
Yeah.
It's too big. It's too big. And there also needs to be roughing the passer needs to be egregious.
Yes.
For it to be roughing the passer. Like,
absolutely. You
can't all of a sudden now, he fell on him. He's tackling him.
Right.
Like, you fall on people sometimes.
They got to get sorted out.
If it's
those two
knees,
for the integrity of the game,
knees, that's fine. But you can't be extending drives on some of these nonsense. No. And by the way, I'm also for one. I'm totally for quarterback safety, but a hand that grazes a quarterback's helmet is very different than like a blow to the quarterback's head.
Yeah, and you can tell the difference.
You've got to be, and we can now in slow motion and all of those things. So utilize those in real time with somebody who's sitting there, who's got all the screens of all the angles, and he's just like there. Maybe he's got a brew sponsored by somebody, and he's just a guy who's watching the game and is like, That's an obvious foul. That's not obvious. Not obvious, not a foul. Moving on.
It's all obvious. I mean, this isn't hard.
Yep.
It's all simple. I just think sometimes like they get lost in the technicality of it, as opposed to having some thought to it, and all of it's subjective, which goes counter to the idea of it being the technicality of it. Finally, if a pass does not cross the line of scrimmage, there can be no pass interference or ineligible player downfield penalties. So this would be on batted balls. It would also be on anything laterally, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that would be where I think it would come into account the most. Basically, if you knew a receiver was running a screen, you just go tackle him.
Right.
If you could get there, you just go tackle him before the ball got there.
That feels no.
Yeah. All right.
Because then you're going to get people that are going to get blindsided, right? If you have a receiver waiting on a bubble screen, he's not worried about getting hit until he gets the ball.
Right. Yeah, I think that's how that would be, how the way that would go. All right, coming up next, we'll do a little better or worse, a little higher or lower. Dan Hansis of NFL.com with Gibbe. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. there's certainly a lot of bad advice out there about gambling, from secret methods to picking lottery numbers to betting big when you're on a roll. The myths can lose you money and get you in a lot of trouble. So before you wager, find out what's real and what isn't at keepitfunohio.com. Hello, Gibby.
Hello, boys.
Give it.
How are you, pal?
Fine. Matt Miller from ESPN.com.
Sure.
Asked an evaluator at the Ohio State Pro Day who looked good. The QB, he's amazing. That QB is C.J. Stroud. He's 2023 draft eligible.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. And then
that's
Bryce Young will be in that. Now, Bryce Young's not as big. Bryce Young is more in the, from a size standpoint, CJ's like 6'3", I think, 6'3", 6'4", somewhere in there. Bryce Young's more like 6 feet. But he will have that. Like if he throws at Bama whenever they do theirs, if he's the one who's throwing, you'll hear a lot of the same things. By the way, how good is that? Like his pro day's next year, and he's getting to go through a pro day now.
Yeah, it's pretty
smart play.
What an experience.
Smart job by them.
Have we heard? I don't know if we've heard of this before.
No, that's a good point out of you. I don't know if there's of a player in, still in college throwing for receivers at a pro day.
That's expected to have their pro day be the pro day of note in the coming season. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking high profile guy. I can't recall it. If somebody else can, maybe I've heard of older guys coming back,
correct, or seniors.
or receivers. Yeah, but not this.
Right. Not like a next year first round pick throwing.
Yeah.
Basically getting 2 pro days.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is that this is, and you could correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I don't think that I am. Save Trevor Lawrence. It had been a while since the first pick overall was at this time thought of as being the first pick the next year.
I don't know if CJ's that now. I don't know. I would not put him on the Lawrence train. I wouldn't even put him on the Fields train coming out of last year. But the more, I think that's starting to happen.
Right.
Like coming out of Fields' first year in Columbus, you're like, well, he's one more year, and then he's going to be the second pick in the draft behind Lawrence. No, that didn't end up happening. Lawrence was the sure thing. Lawrence was known.
Sure.
I don't know that CJ's that yet, but I won't be surprised if by the time we start next year he's that.
But he's at least in the conversation along with the kid from Bama. Whereas you go back
for sure.
Like, so this year there's nobody that fits that bill. Last year Lawrence fit that bill. The year before Lawrence would have been what, 2020? Who was the number 1 pick in 2020?
Burrow.
So he fit, but did he fit that bill a year before? No.
No way.
And then Kyler did not, and Baker did not.
No. Good point. Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, I think Winston was that.
Don't come at me with my college knowledge.
Winston was that. I just didn't understand the point you were making in terms of the year before.
No, I wasn't challenging you. That was for the other people. That wasn't to say that you were challenging my college knowledge.
Shot at you,
not at all. No way.
No. I was because it's when you think about presumed number ones, like in recent years,
Jameis and
Luck
Lawrence
was that. Jameis.
Yeah.
And Lawrence, and then way back probably Stafford had that juice to him where he was going to be number 1 overall.
Right.
Yeah, you're probably right. There's not. Yeah, no, because definitely not Burrow, not Kyler.
Lawrence didn't throw with his receivers the year before because Lawrence was already like the guy the year before that he was.
Lawrence could have thrown after his freshman year.
Right.
He knew that whenever he was eligible, he was going to be the number 1 pick.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. No, I don't think that's happened. But those guys down there are savvy, man. They are so smart with the NFL stuff, those Ohio State guys. It's crafty.
You can take that down to Columbus and take total credit for it.
Well, I'm going to get 30 minutes out of it tomorrow, so thanks.
There you go. People helping
just
people.
Just did my A block at 10 o'clock. Thanks, Bill.
People helping people. That's what we're here for.
All right. Higher or Lower, presented by our great friends at the Ohio Lottery, and the Power Rankings are back. NFL.com, Dan Hansis. NFL.com. Obviously, this was prior to today's big trade involving Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs and the Dolphins. So we'll get to those respective teams as we get through this. But this is 1 week into free agency, the Power Rankings, according to Dan Hansis. Hit it.
Higher or lower?
First and foremost.
Hold on. When I'd give me just giving a hit it is just, it's a treat. Like,
Hit it.
Awesome.
it's awesome.
Higher or lower?
Boy, good job, Nick.
What was my favorite one ever? Play the
Traveling
play the-
music.
what-
When he goes, we need
No,
some.
no. Traveling music is a smooth, but no, it was like we couldn't play the effect. What did you say the one time? Like you did. It wasn't hit it. It wasn't next. It wasn't traveling
the
music.
sounder.
It was play the.
Higher or lower?
Technical term.
Play the
Technical
sounder.
term for the people in the bit, not in the
Amazing.
biz.
Love that one. Play the sounder, Danny.
Higher or lower?
Well done, Nick. Well done. All right.
Well done.
First and foremost, the Browns are 14th in the power poll. And obviously, a lot has to do with the quarterback situation and what may or may not happen here as a result of the NFL and possible suspensions, whatever the case might be. Should they be higher, lower, or just right? The Cleveland Browns 1 week into free agency. Zegura shaking his head fervently. Go ahead.
The Browns are better than that. I mean, right now it's the unknown of the possible looming suspension, but the Browns at full strength with Deshaun Watson being their quarterback, who they've acquired in this trade, are certainly better than that. They are, without question, a top 10 team in the National Football League. And, you know, they have a claim to challenge to go even higher or better than that. The Niners one is an odd ranking to me. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that. But I definitely think the Browns are better than 14 with Deshaun Watson as their quarterback.
Bishop.
Look, this is a, you know, from what I can tell on Dan's rankings, this is a rankings of where these are as football teams. And so all of the stuff, you know, that you're waiting on, the ancillary things, that doesn't pertain to football. If you're just looking at this from a football perspective, the Browns are a top 5 team in the NFL. Period. That's what you are. You're loaded. You're absolutely loaded. So, I mean, like, I know that everything is what it is, and that's the circumstance, and I get it. If you're redrafting the NFL, Deshaun Watson goes in the top 5. If you're redrafting the NFL, how quickly does Nick Chubb come off the board at running back? If
Myles
you're
Garrett's.
redrafting the NFL, how quickly does Myles Garrett come off the board at defensive end?
Denzel.
JOK at linebacker. Denzel. I mean, come on.
Newsome.
Like, my God, Newsome. Look at our offensive line. Batonio, Teller.
Yep.
Come on. I mean, it's
Yeah.
way better.
Yes.
Way better
Significant.
football.
Next.
Higher or lower?
I just want to get one thought from you guys on the AFC North teams and where they're ranked. Cincinnati's at number 4, the Ratbirds at 15, the Pukers at number 20. Bishop, thought from you on
Cincy higher. They had one. Think about this. Cincinnati got La'el Collins. They got the 2 guards. They can now – this is what great organizations do. They now don't have to draft for need at the end of the first round. They solved it. They fixed their need in the first week of free agency. So they're all fixed on the offensive line. So Cincinnati's better than 4 because the team right ahead of them is Kansas City. Not only they beat Kansas City twice,
Last year.
but they also still they still have Jamar Chase, and they got better on the offensive line. Meantime, Kansas City's got guys that are out the door, including Tyreek Hill. Ravens, I would say, around sweet spot, and Pukers I would have lower.
Segura.
I
Worse
feel
or
if I had to go on right now, the Ravens or the Patriots, for example, who are right ahead of them, I'd probably feel better about the Ravens going into the season with getting the people back at running back. J.K. Dobbins coming back, Gus Edwards coming back.
Yeah, I don't understand the love for the Patriots at 13.
I don't either.
That is a generous.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, J.C. Jackson out the building. They got rid of Shaq Mason. Yeah, I don't necessarily get that one either. So I think the Ravens are about right. And as for the Steelers, it feels also about right. I mean, let's remember this team has never had a losing season under Tomlin, and they went to the playoffs with nothing at quarterback. Nothing.
I just think others have gotten better.
Well, I think if you look at this now, like the Dolphins,
kind of
the Dolphins would be ahead of them. I think the Vikings are honestly too low on this. They might be the 4th best team in the NFC right now. it just speaks to, again, that the league is pretty competitive, and then except for like the few teams that are the have-nots. And the teams that are the have-nots are not going to be very competitive, but whether you're 20, whether you're 24, it doesn't really matter. They're a team right now that is probably not predicted to go to the playoffs, but you obviously saw last year their ability to do so under a very down year. They still have TJ Watt. They still have Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson and Claypool, and they've still got Cam Hayward. They've got some players of note on that football team, and they just kind of have a mythos around them that has not allowed them to be a failing franchise.
Next.
Higher or lower?
Let's get right into the rankings. Number 1, a week into free agency, Dan Hansis has the best team in the NFL out of Buffalo, New York. The Buffalo Bills. Can't go higher. Lower or just right, Nathan Zegura?
I'm fine with it as them being the preseason favorites. You got Josh Allen, who threw, if my memory serves, 9 touchdowns with 9 incompletions in 2 playoff games, and somehow they lost in the most unbelievable shootout. You add Von Miller to the defense. Who have they lost of note? Who's a significant person that they've lost? Nobody. They lose J.D. McKissick to be their receiving back, and instead they end up getting Duke Johnson in there. So, but you still have Diggs. You've got Poyer. You've got Hyde. You've got Tre'Davious White. You've got Von Miller now. You've got Josh Allen. They feel like the most complete team right now in the league. I have no problem with them being the preseason one.
Bishop.
Type.
Next.
Higher or lower?
Number 2, the defending Super Bowl champion, Los Angeles Rams. Number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, this was prior to today's Tyreek Hill trade. My question to you guys is, where would you slot the Kansas City Chiefs after today's trade? Bishop, I will start with you.
Oh, it's a tough one. I mean, I have to see who they replace him with.
Yeah.
I mean, as they sit right now, they're an incomplete. Like, as they sit right now, they're worse off than the Chargers as they sit right now. But they haven't drafted. I mean, they're worse off than Denver right now, but they haven't drafted. And they will draft, and they will get receivers. So that's it's almost like they're impossible to rank because so much of their identity was tied up in Tyreek Hill. Not obviously as much as Kelsey. Well, as much as Kelsey, not as much as Mahomes.
Right.
But you see the point. Like, they're just an incomplete. It's impossible to rank them until you see what the response is to replacing Tyreek Hill. But this is a big blow. Like, I'm not someone who's going to minimize the loss of Tyreek Hill. It's huge for them.
Even today, though, I would still
He's
take
not
them.
Replaceable.
Even today, they're not falling out of the top 10.
No,
even if with
that's
nothing.
what I said. Like,
even
I'd
if they
have
ran
them
this
have them down like around 9.
Yeah, I'd have them below Denver right now and probably below the Chargers right now.
Yeah.
But again, by the way, like, look at, I mean, I'm sure we're getting to it next, but like, this is the next one that I think is interesting. At 6.
Next.
Higher or lower?
We'll go to Segura on this one. Number 4, the Bengals. Number 5, Tampa Bay. Number 6, the San Francisco 49ers. Pedro, not Pedro. Higher, lower, or just right? Junior, that is.
I'll tell you what. This is the sentiment on the street right now from one person, the source of one. Nerd. This really came into me while we're on the show right now. Nerd.
Did it really?
Yeah. Wonder if the Dolphin coach was actually Kyle's brain. Been together for years, not only coached the running game, he designed it. I mean, Dad, I hate to tell you, but Kyle's been an offensive coordinator well before Mike McDaniel was, I mean, he was an offensive quality control coach with him in Houston. He was the receivers coach in Cleveland. Not so sure that you have that right. Nate, Niners also have no guards. Brunskill, worst rated guard in the league. Preseason game Banks played, received a 0 score from Pro Football Focus. You can fall down and get credit for a pass block. Nate. So Pedro is way down on the Niners right now. Way down on the Niners.
All right. So the Niners were 6.
This is real commentary. Real commentary.
Amazing
Like,
commentary.
That's like when my dad used to talk about when people would like get their SAT scores would be so low, and supposedly if like you put your name in right, you got a certain score just off of that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he would be like, nerd. Couldn't even get their name right.
Packers 7, Chargers 8, 9 Broncos, 10 Titans to round out the top 10. Want to get your final one here at pick number 32. We've got about 30 seconds. The Houston Texans, higher or just right? Bishop, we'll start with you.
It feels just right. I'm trying to think who's in the conversation.
Well,
with them.
I mean, the
at
Giants
the very bottom
at
of
30,
it. Is it Giants and
the
No, I think
Lions
the
at
Giants have better
29, the
skill
Jets
guys
at
than
28, the
Houston.
Falcons. How about
I think the Falcons.
Falcons might be the worst right now.
Falcons.
Yeah, the
They
Washington
might be the worst right
Commanders
now.
are 26th.
No, I think Falcons is the answer.
By the way,
right
did
now.
you
They
guys-
have
if I-
no Ridley? They traded Matt Ryan. It's like Pitt Stan.
The only trade this entire offseason that saw a player go from the AFC to the NFC was Wentz.
Jeez.
Isn't that
That ain't
crazy?
right. I have a great many problems with that. So much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. If a car, truck, or motorcycle accident caused you injury, call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK Ohio for a free case review. Elk & Elk, a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. What a day, buddy. Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins. Got it. Still hard to wrap your head around.
Unbelievable. The AFC, like we just said, we went from 12 teams thinking they were going to the playoffs and legit Super Bowl contenders. Now we're 13 out of 16 in the AFC. Feel like they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, I love
13 to 16.
Without president.
The
A
AFC
great
next
many
year?
things have happened in the AFC this
By the
offseason.
way, we play the Dolphins.
A great
we
many
play the
things.
Bills. We got them all.
That's right.
It's a great many. Isn't it great?
Great many
I love
things. It is wonderful.
I love a great many. So great. Next level coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.